Hi, I'm George Pearson. This time in Adobe Photoshop, we'll be doing this clock face here. The only real tricky part about this is how to place these numbers correctly onto the face. Everything else is pretty straightforward, but I'll toss in a few tricks in there as well, just make this a bit more interesting. If you like this video, make sure you click that like button and of course share with your friends. Subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on any future videos, and check out my complete training titles, and you'll find the link for that up there in the upper right hand corner and of course in the description. Okay, let's get to it. I've put together a nice little basic clock face here, as you can see. Tossed in a couple of pictures just for interest's sake, and put on a couple of hands in here, the hour hand and the minute hand, and of course a nice chrome ring around the outside edge. Most important part about this whole project though is how do you place these numbers in the correct location in here on your clock face. Once your numbers are in place, you can choose any typeface you want for these things. You can do any effects you want on those numbers, make your clock face anything you want. All that is all straightforward, but getting these positions correct, that's what takes a little bit of doing. Let's go ahead and see how this is done. I'll start off with a brand new file. Let's just close this one down. I'm recording this video in Photoshop CC 2018, but any version of Photoshop should be able to do this project with no problem at all. Let's go up here to the File menu and New, and I'll just choose just a standard size, default sized Photoshop file for this one. And there we go, default Photoshop size, 7 wide by 5 tall, so it's a horizontal format, just so that fits inside of our window here a bit better. And choose Create. Now the first thing we need on this are some guidelines to help us spot the center point for our circle. So let's go ahead and do those. Now it's 7 wide by 5 tall, which makes our center lines at 3.5 and 2.5. So go up to the View menu, come down to New Guide. Let's do a horizontal first. This is going to be at 2.5. That's 2.5. There's a horizontal, and then we'll put our vertical in. View and New Guide. Change that to vertical, and then 3.5 or 3.5, and there's our center point for our page. Once you have the center point marked in, we can then use this as a basis to create our circle, and then everything is based upon that first circle. Let's put in one more guideline. I want a guideline up here at about the 1 inch mark down. So it'll be a horizontal guideline, View, New Guide, right there, and horizontal, and put that at 1 inch. There we are. We'll be doing our circle right in here, starting up here and then moving out to that 1 inch mark. Now to draw the circle, we'll be using the shape tool over here. Let's just set this to ellipse. There we go. And go up here to the options and set your options for circle and from center. And close that down. That allows us to put our crosshair here right on the center and then pull out, and keep on pulling this out until it just touches that top guideline up there, right about there. It doesn't need to be perfectly exact, but that's our point that we're aiming at. It'll come in as black if your colors are their default colors, and that's fine. So this is just our reference circle. Everything else is based upon this. We'll be doing our numbers just outside of this sized circle. Now close this. No need to have that open any longer. There we go. So basic reference circle. Now a circle is 360 degrees around. Each one of these corner segments is 90 degrees. And we need to have 3 pieces in each one of these. So your first piece up here is 90. Come down 30 degrees because 1/3 of 90 is 30. So come to 30 degrees and a spot, and then 30 degrees and a spot. And here's our next one. So to do that, let's put in a new layer. There's our new layer. We'll be using a different tool over here. Go over here to the line tool under our shapes. I have this set at 2 pixels up there, and then come outside here a ways. Don't come in close, come outside quite a ways, just like that, and then take your cursor and bring it right down on top of that horizontal line. Click and drag over about the same distance. Doesn't need to be perfectly exact. We won't be using these lines for anything visual. These are just our reference points. But pull it over about that far. You can now go up to the Move tool up here, and if you want to, you can use the cursor keys or arrow keys on that to get that exactly on that line. Sometimes it's not exact. So let's tap up once, and there it is right on top of that line, and that's our first horizontal line. Let's now do another one of those. Take this shape, pull it down to the new shape layer right there, new layer button. Here's our copy 1. And on this one, we're going to rotate this around by 30 degrees. So use the Control-T keyboard shortcut, and that brings up our control handles out there. Double check that center spot. You may need to use the Move tool to move your line over just a touch. I'll go to the right just one tap, and Control-T again. Looks good, that's right on the center. Okay, up here to our angle, and just type in 30, and there's our first line moved up to 30 degrees. Once you've rotated that, click on the check mark up here to set that in place. There we go. Now take this layer, move this down to the new layer button, makes another copy up here, it's copy 2. Do the exact same thing, Control-T, brings up our control handles, back up to our number up here, same thing again, 30 degrees, and check mark. There we are. That's doing our 30-degree divisions for our top left and bottom right. Grab this again, pull it down to the new layer button. One more time, Control-T, and 30 degrees. There we go. And 2 more of these, and we're done. So same thing, pull that down, Control-T keyboard shortcut, change the angle to 30 degrees, just rotates it around again, choose OK. One last time, there we go. It's our new layer, Control-T, change the angle up here to 30, and choose OK. And there we go, there's our division. So now if I put a number 12 here and a 1 here, 2, 3, 4, 5, that gives us our correct positioning for our numbers. Let's go one step further on this so we can really place our numbers in nicely positioned. And to do that, we'll be putting a circle in here and then copying that circle on top of all the rest of these so we have a nice circles to place our numbers inside of those circles. It just makes it real easy that way. Before I do that, I'll go over here to this first or top of our line layers. Hold the Shift key down, click on the bottom of the line layers. There we are. And then click on the Group tool down here. Let's put all these things into a group. Double click this and just call this one Lines. That gets them out of the way so they're not easy to either show or hide all at once, and they're not filling up our space here on the layer menu. We're now going to make a circle to put our numbers inside of. So let's change our tool here to the Ellipse tool again. Back up and check your options. It should still say circle and from center. That's fine. I always like making a new layer when I do a shape just to make sure it doesn't mess up any other previous layer. And then out here, any old place, doesn't matter. Just click and drag, and then watch that little window on the right-hand side there, and set it for about 0.7475, anywhere in there. I'll do 0.74, close enough. And there we go. There's our basic layout. Now I want to have this white inside with a black outline. So let's close that. We'll do that with a layer style. So here's our ellipse. Click on the FX down here. And let's come down and do a color overlay. Doesn't matter what color you want, but I'm going to change this here to white. Let's go to Web Only Colors and go to white, choose all right. So it's now white. And then I'll put a stroke on this. Go up here to Stroke, at black, and I'll put this at 2 pixels and choose OK. Now if we just click on the Move tool, there it is. And the reason for all that is so that it's easy to place our numbers in here. Let's just collapse down the effects. Now I want this actually underneath of our lines. So just take this, drag it underneath. There we go. And then bring right onto the stroke. Grab this and move it up here so it's right above that first line. And then pull it down so it just touches right there. That's the correct position. Now you may want to, if you want to be really exact, just zoom in a little bit and we can make it even closer. Doesn't need to be perfect, doesn't need to be an exact fit, but basically just like that. Okay, you can double check this by clicking on your new ellipse. Now this is our, let's call this one small circle. And do the Control-T keyboard shortcut. So you can see your bounding box and your control handles, and that's right in the right spot, so that's fine. Okay, there's our first one. Let's now take this and make a copy of this. Just drag it down to the New Layer button. There's our copy. Grab the line and just pull that over here. Now you need to eyeball this position. It's snap. You can see right there it kind of snaps right down to that edge of that circle. It'll be real close. Now at this point you may want to come in and using your arrow keys or your cursor keys just adjust the position a little bit so you're basically right on that edge. I put it up just a touch because that one is up just a touch. There's our second one. Let's just move our window over here a little bit and we'll get these two. Same thing, take this, pull it down to the New Layer button, grab that circle, and I missed that one there. Let's try that again. It's got to be right on that edge right there. And again, I'll just use the cursor keys to kind of tap this into position. Now the cursor keys only move up and down or left and right, so you have to do an up and over or down and over to get that position. But there you go, that's our next position. Okay, same thing, let's copy this, grab right on the circle, pull that one down, and let's just do a little bit of an adjustment in here. Again, if you're not really sure about the placement on that one, now this trick only works for the circles at the left and right and top and bottom, but do the Control-T keyboard shortcut and you can see your control handles. And I need to come down just a touch. Actually, I'm just off center on that line. So I'll put it right between those two. That's close enough. These don't need to be exact. Your numbers won't be exact either, but they'll be right within the visual correct position. That's all we care about. Okay, choose the OK bit. Let's pull this down and finish this off. Same trick. Just pull it down here to the New Layer. Grab the circle and pull this down in here. Put it about right, and then using your cursor keys, just kind of walk it up until it's positioned properly. And also go ahead and finish this clear around the rest of the circle. Do the other side of the circle. Same exact trick. You're just making a copy of each one of these things and then moving it into position. For the rest of those, I'll just do it off camera here and be back up again in a second once I have the rest of these circles all in place. Alright, there we go. And that was the hardest part of the whole project, all taken care of. Let's now go over here to our layers on the right hand side. I'm going to close down that adjustments. Just double click there. Click on your top circle, hold the Shift key down, click on the bottom circle, and let's put all of this into a group. Click on the group button. There it is. Let's just double click on this and call this one circles. And that's our reference for putting our numbers in. So that takes care of the figuring out where to put your numbers. Now for our numbers, let's go here to the type tool and I'll set my type. I have it set at Comic Sans, this old-fashioned standard kind of a goofy typeface, and bold 36 point. Just click outside any old place, doesn't really matter. Now I want to have these numbers above all this stuff, so I'll click on the top lines group, put a new layer above that. That will guarantee that our numbers come in at this point. So just click out here someplace, get our insertion point, there it is, and I'll put in a 12. It's our first number. Click on the check mark up here to set that in place. Once that's set, we'll then move that into the first circle area. Let's go over to the Move tool, and then grabbing that number, just bring it up here. Now this you're going to be doing visually. Just get it positioned so it's nicely centered inside of that circle. There's our number 12. Now it's just like our other circles here. Simply copy this layer, duplicate, grab it, and pull it over here. And let's change that number. I'll double click and type a 1. There it is. And then I'll use the cursor keys, those arrow keys again, just get that position just about where I want it, right inside that circle, just like that. Now you can use any typeface you want on this. It doesn't matter. As long as it fits inside or right by the circle, then your spacing will be correct. Now the reason I'm using a circle in here, not just putting the numbers on these lines, is that you may need to position them a little bit differently based upon the shapes of those numbers. Putting it in the circle allows you to center it in the circle, and that gives you that nice position for your visual centering. Let's do one more of these. Just grab the number 1 here, drag it down to the new layer button. I'll grab that one, pull it down here. Same thing, switch over to our type tool, double click, make that a 2, click the check mark, and then back to the move tool. And using the cursor keys again, the arrow keys, just get that position nicely in that circle. Okay, I'll go ahead and fill the rest of these in off camera and be right back. And there it is. There's all of our numbers. We're now done with those lines. We can hide that line group down here. Just click on that eye. It hides the lines. You may or may not want to keep those circles. That's up to you for your design of your clock. I'll just hide the circles. Let's now put these numbers into their own group. So back up to the top. Click on your top layer, which should say 11. Scroll down to the bottom one, which should say 12. Hold the Shift key down. Click on that. Hit the group button. And let's just rename this one numbers. One of the reasons for putting these into their own group is you can now place layer styles onto this group, and it applies to all of your numbers at once. Let me just show that real fast here. Easy way to style these things. Go up here to Layer and come down to Layer Style. Let's just do Color Overlay and let's change our color here to something. I'll just choose a nice orange right there. And it colors all of those at one shot just by using the layer styles. We could also do a bevel emboss at this point if I wanted to. A little bevel emboss right on there. So it allows you to do those styling on the whole group, and it does all the numbers together. Now we'll be doing something different on those, but I just wanted to show you how easy it is using these groups to apply styling on everything inside of that group. Okay, now we need to find the outside circle in here for our clock face. It's a second circle we'll be doing, again, pulled from the center point right down there. Move back to the circle tool. There we are. Double check your settings. Make sure that's at circle and from center. That's fine. And then bring the crosshairs right over the center guidelines, which is right about there. And pull the circle here just outside of your numbers. It's not going to be an exact position, but just about out here. Just a little bit of space around the numbers should be fine. And choose OK. Then double check your control handles. They're all on our lines. That's perfectly fine. That's going to be the clock face outside size and shape. We'll be using this for a couple of things. Let's now put some styling on this one. So go down to the Layer Styles button where it says FX right there. Other way of bringing this thing up. And let's put a gradient overlay. Little basic simple overlay like that. Now the one that I used in here, if you click on gradient, on the left hand side, this color here is all C's. It's 6 C's. If you go to web only colors, it's that gray right there. So that's the left hand side. The right hand side is just white. And choose OK. Everything else is your basic defaults. 100% opacity, align with layer. Down here I have the angle set at 123 or 123 degrees. We can now also put in a drop shadow onto this. At this point, click on drop shadow. Come down to the drop shadow line down here. It's set at multiply. Opacity is at 82. Let's set the angle to that 123 again. That's the angle I'll be using for all of these things in here. That's our angle. Set the distance at 37. The spread at 0 and the size at 51. And that should give you a nice drop shadow around that outer edge. There it is. And then choose OK. Now obviously it's in front of our numbers right now, so we need our numbers in front of this. Just grab the numbers group and pull that above that new ellipse, and there's your numbers on top of that outline. Now we'll be using this clock face. This part here we're going to be keeping, this part here we'll be keeping. We're making a copy of this later to make our chrome rim in a little later step. But let's go ahead and bring our two cat pictures in here. And I have links for these cat pictures in the description. Also up there on the upper right hand corner you'll find a link for the materials page where you can get these two different cat pictures. Since I've already opened these, they're up here in my recent file list. So either use the open and find the file on your hard drive once you've downloaded them from online, or if you've already used them, just go to your open recent. And the first one here is this one here, which is 2258190. This will open up as a new file. There it is. I'll just drag it down so it floats, and then grab the background and just pull it over here. There we go. We can now close that one down. Now it's too big. We need to resize this down to fit, so hold the Control-T keyboard shortcut, brings up our control handles, grab your upper left hand corner, hold the Shift key down, and then pull that down. The Shift key makes it position proportionally. Now I can bring it in here so that it just snaps onto that bottom line and get the cat about positioned right. And then your top of your circle is up and behind there someplace. You can hold the Shift key down. You can see there's the top of the circle. So just above the top, and that's pretty good. Now if you're unsure about where the exact position is on this layer, just set the opacity here at 50. You can then see through and see where the cat's going to be falling in. I have it so the upper ear is just inside the circle and this ear is just over that center line. That's a good position for that, and it's just big enough to fit outside of there. And let's reset our opacity back to 100. Now I only want to have the cat inside this quarter section. So to do that, we're going to place in a mask around the cat. We'll then adjust that mask to suit. Now if you're not snapping like this, see I'm kind of snapping to that bottom line right there, and I'll come just outside, let it snap to this left hand side. If it's not snapping like that, go up to the View menu, come down to Snap To, and make sure that Snap To Guides is checked. It should be, that's the default, but just in case it's not working, just double check that. Okay, we're going to be making a selection in here. I'll go over here, grab your rectangular marquee tool, coming right onto the center point. Click and drag from there until you're outside of the picture. There we go. And then we're on our layer still. Click on the Layer Mask button. That makes a layer mask, so we're now just seeing the area inside this one quadrant. Let's do our second cat down below here. We'll then take care of that outside curve bit. So again, if you've downloaded the pictures, use the open, find the picture, open it up that way. I've already opened these, of course, so I have my other picture is in here. In this case, it's this one right there, the 4231 cat. There it is. Same thing. Let's just drag that down, grab the background, pull the cat in, and then close down this file. Once again, the picture is too large, so Control-T to bring up our control handles. Hold the Shift key down, and let's pull that down so it's about the right size. I'll let it snap into that upper corner right there, so it's snapping to this guideline and snapping to that guideline. And then holding the Shift key down again, let's grab the bottom right hand corner and pull it out till it's just big enough to fit into that space. Looks good. Click the check mark or just go to the Move tool. Either one will set that in place. Switch to the rectangular marquee. Once again onto our center point. Right there. Pull that marquee down until it's outside. And then click on the Layer Mask button, and there's our layer mask. It's now clipped in here nicely. At this point we can actually move that picture back and forth. Let's go over here to the Move tool and click on that little link right there that unlinks the layer mask from the image, and then move to the image side. We can now move the cat around inside of that layer mask, and it looks like that's a pretty good spot right in, I think right about there. So it's in far enough into the picture that the numbers will be down around here someplace. And then just relink that by clicking on that spot in between those two, the image and the layer mask, and put that link back in again. Okay, that's positioned nicely. Now we need to have the cutout around the outside on that one. And for that, hold the Control key down and click on the icon for our second ellipse. That selects that layer, or gives us a selection based upon the contents of that layer. We're now down here on this image. Click on the layer mask for this image, which is right there, and then go up to Select and Inverse. So now the outside is selected. Now when you're working with layer masks, white shows, as you can see here, and black hides. So I want to hide what's out here. Let's reverse our colors so that black is in the foreground. Grab the paintbrush, and then I'll just paint right along here, along that edge, and I'm just painting black onto the layer mask, hiding that part of the picture. I'm not erasing anything, I'm just hiding it. The reason I do that is so I can move it around if I want to, and I haven't lost anything on the picture. I'm just adjusting that layer mask. Let's just go out here. It looks good. Let's come down to our first layer here, layer mask side. Look for that outline, the white outline around there. Make sure you're on the layer mask, and do the same thing up here. Let's just paint that out. Again, we're painting black on the layer mask, which hides that outside portion. Okay, we can now go back to the Move tool and deselect. Once again, our numbers have ended up in behind our images. So grab that numbers layer, grab that group, and just drag it to the top. And the numbers are now back in front again. Okay, next thing we need to do is we need to position our numbers properly and also set these white on top of our images and leave them black off the images. So I'm going to zoom in here. Let's zoom in on our 12 first. You can kind of see it right there. There's our split. And let's hide that one cat image. Go to the Move tool. See, here's our center line. There's that guideline. Let's open this up and find that number 12. And that's right down here. And I'll just use my left and right arrows and move that over just a little bit so that the space is centered right here between the 1 and the 2. It's not perfectly centered in our circle any longer, but I want to have the space centered between those two. So use your arrow keys, your cursor keys to go ahead and get that position just right. Let's move to the right hand side and scroll down a little bit down to our 3 right here. Let's hide that cat as well. Now I want the 3 line right through the middle of the 3, and we're pretty close. There's our 3 layer. Then one tap down should do it. That looks good. Let's come down to the bottom. There's the 6. Let's find our 6 layer. Here it is. And I want the circle here centered on that line. So I think one tap to the right should do it, and that's good. So that's nicely centered. Just adjusting this to look better on the picture. Let's check our 9. Now for the 9, you'll see that the line is going through kind of the middle here of the line. So I'm going to move this so that the 9, the center of that bottom part of the loop of the 9 is centered on that line. So let's find our 9. And I'll use my up arrow and just move that up just a couple of steps. And that looks good right there. So again, I'm just finding something to line these things up on to clean up their alignment. I think I would go down one tap on that. I wanted just a little more of that curve down below there. Okay, good. Let's go back to our fit screen view. And let's bring our cats back up again. There are the cats. And now let's begin working on the numbers. The first one up here is our 10. I want this 10 in white. So let's go to layer 10, double click, and change the color here to white. I'm going to have mine set for only web colors to make it easy to spot that. There's the 10. Next one is our 11, and that's right here. Same thing. Double click on that and change the color to white. Choose OK. There's the 11. Now the 12, I want just the 1 from the 12. So let's find our 12. It's at the bottom of our stack right there. Double click and find my center and pull to the left. That just selects just the 1. Let's set that to white. There we are. So that's taken care of. Now the rest of these have to be split in half. So to do that, make a copy. Let's go to our 3 first, which is right here. Make a duplicate of this layer. Pull it down to the New Layer button. There's our 3 copy. Back to the Type tool. double click on that layer and set that one to white. Choose OK. Back to the Move tool. So you have white on top of that. Now, by just using a layer mask, I can show just this part and hide this part. It's really easy to do. Go to the rectangular marquee tool, come down here someplace, and drag a marquee up just to that guideline. Doesn't need to be exact on this, but the top needs to be on that guideline. It should snap right to that guideline. And click on your layer mask button, and that hides that top part. It actually just shows the bottom part. Do the same thing for the 6 and the 9. So here's our 6. Make a copy of the 6. Back to our Type tool. Double click on the 6. Change the color here to white. There we go. Back to the Move tool so you can see that. Back to our elliptical marquee, and over here in the cat someplace, drag a marquee like that. The important part here is that it's covering or around the 6 and it stops at that center guideline. Again, it should snap right to that. Click on your layer mask button, and there's the 6. Let's scroll up, find our 9. Last one. Take this, pull it down to the new layer button. Type tool, double click on the 9. Change the color to white. There we are. Back to our Move tool. Back to the Marquee tool. Over in here someplace, click and drag a rectangular marquee just like that. Let it snap to that center guideline. And then Layer Mask. And that takes care of our numbers. Now you can see it a bit better if I just hide these guides for a minute. Let's go up here to View and let's uncheck Extras. And there's our numbers, including our color change in here. We just need to do the 5 and the 4, and we're all finished with making half of these white and half of them black. Okay, let's finish out those last couple of numbers in here. Come down to the 5, double click, and color to white. And down to the 4, double click, and color to white again. And there we go. Time now to do the Chrome bezel on this. So let's go up here and collapse the numbers group. Now take the ellipse down here, ellipse number 2, and drag this down to the new layer button. And then take this and copy it, or actually move it up here above that numbers layer, so it's the top layer right there. Okay, double click on the effects. This brings back up our layer styles. Undo that gradient overlay and change to a color overlay. Doesn't matter what color. It came up as a white. That's perfectly fine. Again, it doesn't matter in here. Just choose any color you want. Click on your color overlay. You can change your color right there, but white's fine. Let's now take off the drop shadow and click on stroke, bringing a stroke in here. Now on the stroke, change the size to 30. Position center, that's fine. Blend mode normal, opacity 100%, color black, that's all great. And choose OK. So have a nice black outline with a white center. We now need to rasterize this whole thing a couple of times. So right click where the name is and choose rasterize layer. Right click on the name again and choose rasterize layer style. It's now just a graphic with a white center and a black outline. Now moving over here to the magic wand, click in the center, any old place like that, hit the delete key, and we'll actually cut out that center bit. And then we can go ahead and do a deselect. So we're now left with just the outline, just that black outline. We can now put new layer styles on the black outline to give us that Chrome bevel look. So go up here to layer style, or the little layer style button right down there, that's fine. For this layer style, go to bevel and emboss. Here we go. Now on this, we're going to be doing just a few settings. I want inner bevel. That's fine. Let's set the technique to smooth right there. Let's set our depth all the way to the top at 1000. Set the size at 21. Now all of these things I've figured out ahead of time, of course. Softens at 0. Angle should be at 123. Set the contour down here to this one right there. It's called ring. So the ring contour, that's all good. Now come down to the gradient overlay, and this should still be at the gradient that we used last time. If not, it's at normal, opacity 100, angle at 123, linear, and the gradient, click on the gradient right there. Left-hand side is our color right there, and that's up here with the only web color selected, or just 6 C's, and right-hand side's white. Choose OK, and that takes care of that, giving us that nice chrome bezel around the outside edge of this thing. Two things left to do. I want to put in a bit of a background in here and then put the hands on the clock. Let's do our background first, just to get that out of the way. Then to the background layer here, and then I do a new layer above the background. Click on the foreground color, and in here I'm going to change this to kind of a nice warm yellow. Let's go get rid of that web only colors. And the color I used on this was FFF4CE. It's kind of a nice off-white, kind of a light, real light yellow. Choose OK. And then paint bucket, click in there, that fills that in with that coloration. Let's now put a texture on this one. Go up here, first off to our Move tool, then the Filter Gallery. There we are. In the Filter Gallery, we're going to be using the texturizer to apply a texture filter onto this. And you'll find that in the Texture section, bottom right-hand corner, Texturizer. And I used the Sandstone texture, scaling at 100, relief at 7, and then just choose OK. That puts just a little bit of a texture on there. It has kind of a wall feel about it. All right, last thing left to do now are the hands for the clock. So let's put our colors back to their default settings. Click on that little icon right there, back to our default settings. And let's bring our guidelines back up again. So View, and let's show the extras. There's our guidelines. It's time now to put our clock face hands in. Excuse the bad joke there. And let's go ahead and switch over here to the Custom Shape tool. And I've chosen a triangle, which is right over here. You go clear to the top. I have my shape showing all shapes. Just go up here and click on all if they're not all showing. Once you have that, just scroll down and way down here someplace. Here's our triangle right there. Click on that one. And then from the top line here, pull it straight down and out a little bit to that bottom line. So there's our first triangle, and that'll be the hour hand. Let's now go over here to the Move tool and then take this layer, pull this to the very top, and double click and name this one hour. Make a duplicate of this layer, pull it down to the new layer button, and this will be our minute hand. Pull that over, so there's your minute hand. And then using the Control-T keyboard shortcut, let's bring up our control handles, grab the middle handle, and pull it up about halfway between this line and the top. So there's the minute hand. And apply a transformation. There we go. Let's pull our hour hand down into place. I want it in here just a little bit below. You can see there's the bottom, just a little bit below that, and right on the center. I'll zoom in so you can see that a bit better and get the positioning better on this. Control-T so you can see those handles. There's our control handles. Now move it so that the center point here is right on that center line. I'll just use the left arrow key to get that position just right. Right there is good. Now if you look up here, you'll see here's a center point right there. Little kind of crosshair. Take that and pull that down, put it right on that middle point right there. So our little center marker is right there. We can now move this around. If we go up here to the Move tool and apply our transformation, that takes care of our positioning on that. I'm going to back out just a touch, make it easier to see. I'm going to fill our screen again. There it is. So there's that hour hand. and I'll zoom in just a bit. I want it in enough so you can see what I'm doing, but not too far. I want to have the 8 showing down there. That looks pretty good position. Again, Control-T, keyboard shortcut. Grab that center point again. When you move off of that, it's going to move that center point back to the center of the whole shape here. So let's grab that again. Pull that right down, right onto that center point. The reason I'm doing that is I can now rotate that around that point. So go up here to the rotation right there. You can either type in a rotation up here or just come just outside one of these corners. See, get the kind of a curved arrow. I can now pull that around just like that and actually rotate this around, and it rotates around that center point that we moved. And I want this point right at the 8 and then a little bit above, just a touch. There we go. And choose OK on that. That gets our position on that hand. Now go to the minute hand, which is over here on the right hand side a little bit. There it is. I'll pull this in. Let's pull it down just a bit and put it right on the center. Looks good. I'm going to zoom in again. Let's double check our center position on that Control-T keyboard shortcut. Okay, just left by one touch there with the little arrow keys. Nicely centered. And let's go ahead and back out just a bit. Hold the Alt key down and back out just a bit. I want to be able to see that and the 1 up here just a bit further. There we go. Now same thing as before. On the minute hand, Control-T keyboard shortcut. So we can see that little center mark right there. Grab that, pull it straight down, and put that right on that center point for the page. And then come just outside the corner so you see that curved arrow, and then rotate that around until it's just before the 1, right in here somewhere. And then choose OK. So that takes care of positioning the hour hand and the minute hand. So now just put up style on these things, and then we're all done. So on the style, let's do the minute hand first. Come down to our FX, click on Bevel and Emboss, and it brings up our Bevel and Emboss right there. Now on this style, we want inner bevel. That's fine. Let's change the technique to chisel hard. Let's set our depth at 200 right there. Let's set the size to 30. Looking pretty good. And set the contour here. There's the regular contour, the default one. Go just to the right of that, and there's this one here, there's a little corner kind of cut out. We'll use that one. It's called Cove Shallow. This gives us a real nice edge on there. So that takes care of the bevel and emboss. We'll now come down and choose Drop Shadow. Click on the Drop Shadow. Make sure your angle's at 123 still. Everything else is fine. Opacity is fine. Set the distance at 5 and spread it 0, and the size at 5. Just a little soft shadow underneath there. Choose OK. OK, right click on the name and choose Copy Layer Style. Come to the hour, right click on the name and Paste Layer Style, and that puts that in. And there we go. Let's go ahead now and get this fitting on our screen. Let's hide all those guides, just uncheck extras, and there it is. There's our clock face. You know, the most important part being how to position the numbers on the face of the clock. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you found it useful. If you like this video, click on the like button below to let others know. You can click the subscribe button so you don't miss any of my videos in the future. I'm frequently uploading new training videos. Don't forget to check out my website at howtogurus.com.